the subways for the endless ride from Battery to Holy Bronx on Benzedrine until the noise of wheels and children brought them down, shuddering, mouth-racked and battered, bleak of brain, all drained of brilliance in the drear light of zoo. What sphinx of cement and aluminum bashed open these skulls and ate up their brains and imagination? Moloch, solitude, filth, ugliness, ash cans and unobtainable dollars, boys screaming in armies, children weeping under stairways, old men sobbing in the parks. Moloch, Moloch, nightmare of Moloch, Moloch the loveless, mental Moloch, Moloch the heavy judger of men. Wake up in Moloch, light streaming out of the sky. Moloch, Moloch, robot apartments, invisible suburbs, skeleton treasuries, demonic industries, monstrous bombs. They broke their backs lifting Moloch to heaven, pavements, trees, radios, tons, lifting the city to heaven which exists and is everywhere about us. Dreams, adorations, religions, illuminations, the whole boatload of sensitive bullshit. 10 years, animal screams and suicides, minds, new loves, real holy laughter in the river. They saw it all, the wild eyes, the holy yells. They jumped off the roof to solitude, waving, carrying flowers, down to the river, into the street.
Give peace a chance. All we are saying is give peace a chance. All we are saying is give peace a chance.
Etc., etc.
All we are saying is give peace a chance.
If you think the courtroom, it's like two tables are right next to one another. At the end of the day, our table's like a be-in. There's candy all over the place, and we're reading our letters and talking out. And what gets the judge so uptight and the marshal so uptight is the fact that we smile and laugh. Judge Hoffman about 2 weeks ago. Just look at the expression on the defendant's face. Just look at, if you could only see the expression on his face. Expression on our faces. Will you tell the defendants to stop laughing? We have to tell the defendants to stop smiling. And it's a fact that we're perennial, permanent adolescents. We don't want to grow up, because we know what growing up in America means. Growing up in America means that you have to stand up when some fool with robes comes on and stands up. Everyone, please rise. Growing up in America means that you got to support the war in Vietnam, and you got to be a responsible citizen. See, we don't want to be responsible. We're irrational. We're irrational and crazy. And that's what this whole trial's about. That's what America destroys our dreams. And we're fighting to recover our dreams. And here comes a generation of crazies that say we're going to dream forever. We'll call ourselves crazies. We don't want to be responsible. But we don't want to be rational. The Pentagon is rational. The government's case is rational.
One day it was like a revolution in the streets. The next day I opened up my phone book and nobody was there anymore. And I said, is this happening? I mean, it's just gone overnight? Where did it go?
And the government must have spent $1 billion to put us in jail. That's damn good, $1 billion, one missile, you know? I think everyone's goal out there should be to get indicted by the federal government and force them to spend $1 billion to put you in jail. That should be, if everyone here did that and forced the government to spend $1 billion, you know, the government eventually would have to turn over to us. They'd have to declare themselves bankrupt. I mean, I was happy I was indicted. I wanted to be indicted. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, we went to Chicago to get indicted by the federal government. That was the whole purpose, so that we could make a movie about the trial.
All right. Mr. Rubin will make an opening statement, and then we'll be subject to questions. Well, at this one, thank you.
Man. Dolce Vita. These cameras.
Okay, is everybody rolling? Yeah, we're rolling. All right, everybody's rolling.
Well, there's one crew that isn't, so...
Is everybody rolling now? Is anybody not rolling? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Do it.
Do it. Yeah.
I'd been living with a woman for a long time, and she left me. And so I was just like crushed, you know. I was like went into a deep depression, you know. And so here I lost my relationship, my reason for existence, the movement. I mean, there was just a day in 1973 or 74 where my phone book just became outdated. Everybody's phone was disconnected. Everybody had moved to the country or had cut off their hair and joined their father's business or gone back to school. It was just like unbelievable. I went around for about a year or two just kind of blaming myself that if I had been a better leader, this wouldn't have happened.
And I have no program on what to do. I think it's wrong for someone to get up and say, tell us what to do. Because you know what to do. You know where you are. You know what's effective. And you know that across the country there are people like you who are ready to act. And they don't need no leader telling them what to do. Because we're all leaders. They don't need anyone giving orders. They don't even need anyone giving instructions. And I can tell you that all 8 of us are going to jail with that view of history, with that view of the future, and we're all going to jail smiling because we know damn well that the people in this room are going to break the jail down and free us.
Okay, this is a restaurant that used to be a very famous seafood restaurant that's been closed here in Hampton. It's a magnificent space, unbelievable space. You can see the big room back there where there's going to be private, intimate dining, kitchens back there, big clubby room, and this huge room here. We're going to build a bar from one end to the other. We're going to keep the old world, home-like, ancient quality of the place. It's not going to be modern. It's not going to be high-tech. It's going to be a wood floor. This is going to be the hangout room where people are just going to be relaxed, and there'll be couches and chairs. And just look at these 2 just beautiful stairways. It's just absolutely gorgeous, breathtaking. Then that's the ladies' room, and that's an office, and those are offices back there, and those walls are going to come down, and this is going to all be a U-shaped room for private eating. And we're just going to keep the structure the way it is, but make it hopefully one of the most exciting environments in New York. I came up with this idea of throwing a weekly party in my apartment. I invited 100 people and asked each of them to bring the 2 most interesting people that they knew to the party. And I had no idea at that time I was starting a business. I was really working still on Wall Street. Then after doing it a year, someone suggested that I move it to a nightclub. And so I invited all the people who had been to my apartment that year to a nightclub, and 5,000 people showed up that night. And then I realized that I had touched some kind of a nerve chord, that I was satisfying people's needs, and there was something here.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jerry Rubin, and this is Mimi Rubin, my wife and partner. Welcome to the every Wednesday Network Party at Palladium. Tonight's a special occasion because it's the official Republican caucus, and the results will be announced in hopefully 1 or 2 minutes. Next week is the Democratic straw poll.
The following week we have Astor Place, which is a fabulous hair salon down here. It does a lot of people, and they're going to invite all their clients.
And everyone gets a free haircut.
Anybody who wants one gets a free haircut.
So while the dancing's going on, there's all the haircutting going on. It's a spectacle. We did it last year. Very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. The next week we're having a computer night with a lot of high-tech, wild things happening here on the dance floor.
Then I've developed the whole technology of inviting people with theme parties, lawyers' night, doctors' night, Wall Street night, advertising night, and it would be like lateral marketing, inviting people from each industry to come. And then we'd have co-hosts, and it got a lot of press attention, and a reporter in Chicago wrote a story saying that Jerry Rubin, who was a yippie, is now trying to become a yuppie. Running every day, bicycling every day. I walk upstairs, trying to take elevators. But more importantly, I don't eat fatty foods. And I'm on kind of a Pritikin-oriented diet to try to keep cholesterol out of your body, keep your arteries clean. It's a combination of exercising daily, almost taking exercise like brushing your teeth, you know, just an inevitable part of the day, and eating well, and being optimistic.
It's Halloween. Bum 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 bum. Gotham City needs us tonight. This is a job for Superman. I can't do it without a phone booth. Got a whole thing. What do you want to do? Want to ask a question of what it means? Okay, let's see. Well, for today, to understand the trial today. To understand what happened today, you have to set your Yippie decoding ring to D72 and pay very strict attention. The odds have now shifted from 7 to 5 in favor of the Kangaroos because if you remember today's testimony by the Chicago Police Department, they have conclusively proved that Jerry Rubin entered and left the building 3 times. He approached the Eisenhower Highway within 200 yards, and he was last seen inside a Volkswagen convertible. So you can see that the odds have shifted in favor of the Kangaroos.
Jonathan! It's terrific. It's good. No, it's funny.
For 6 months. Now, Deputy Mayor Stahl conclusively said that he believed that it was serious when I asked for $100,000 because he had information that the Office of Economic Opportunity in Washington, you remember Washington, D.C., gave $100,000 to the Yippies. Now, they're the Office of Economic Opportunity is often making grants like this, and we asked the question,
Gotta see this, you're not gonna believe it.
how come you didn't get your cut? Now, we think, if you ask us how the government is going to be brought down or lost in the shuffle, as we tend to put it, our motto is, ask not what you can do for your country, but what your country can do for you. And it's sort of what my old man used to call the gimme-gimmes. Everybody in this country, from like coal miners to GIs to like 7-year-old kids to the teachers to construction workers, is just going to say, we want some too. Like they want their $100,000 grant from the OEO. And everybody's going to be grabbing, gimme, 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 gimme.
When I was young, I was, you know, you had the complete confidence of every single word. I think it's called arrogance of youth.
Like my old man used to say, it ain't whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. Revolution for the hell of it. Evil men They want to destroy everything we hold sacred, form a national liberation front here in America, corrupt our youth, send kids into battle, they stay back, they stay in hotel rooms. You know, and they stay out of the battle, and this is not freedom of speech, this is incitement to riot. Yeah. Homosexuals, drugs, sex, words, you've heard words, you've seen actions. Look it. Yes, I'll admit, normal people don't do these. Mr. Kunstler is right. People don't try to kidnap the chief of police. They don't make these claims. They don't demand. You know, but you've seen these people for 4 months. Look, you know, it was heavy. They're intelligent, sophisticated leaders of a movement dedicated to crush everything we hold dear. Jerry wanted to get up and bow. How to hold him down, you know? It was that kind of thing. Evil! Evil! E-V-I-L! Long live the Pope! Long live evil! Running for Pope. He's running for Pope. It was the whole Catholic thing. We're the devil. It wasn't like communism thing. You know, it wasn't the whole communism thing. It was devil. Devil, bad, evil. Would you want your daughter to marry that group?
And my head is, it's more long haul, you know. I don't wake up every morning saying, God, today's a good day to die, you know, like Crazy Horse, or it's not on the brink. So, you know, you say, well, you've been doing this 27 years, I could do another 27 years. I don't have to change. I got away with it this long, I can just keep doing it, so I don't have to change.
Can we ask you a question?
They're going to demonstrate against the KGB next.
We're doing okay. We're very confident.
You think the doctrine will make sense to the jury?
We're very confident.
I want to ask the Monroe doctrine.
Very confident.
Why doesn't he demonstrate against the KGB? They're recruiting in the United States.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
The most powerful agency in this government gets us into war. And why we feel it's important to act now is that can be repeated again. Those of us who have been to Central America, who study what's going on in Central America, especially in Honduras, see the same pattern being repeated. And we have a right to trust us. Not only a right, but it's our duty. And we intend to be found innocent in this trial.
We're fighting the empire in its last enclave. See, here in America, even among people in the movement, let's say, well, yeah, the schools, I know the schools. I mean, of course, we ain't learned a fucking thing in the schools, you know. Sure, I understand why you came to Chicago last year to politics. Sure, politicians always been corrupt. Yeah, I can see opposing the military. Sure, they're brutal. We didn't stand a war in Vietnam. Sure, it stinks. Yeah, the boss is lousy, but in the courts, you'll get a fair trial. And besides, this is a federal court. A federal court. This isn't a southern racist Mississippi town. This is a federal court. In a building designed by Mies van der Rohe. And you're being tried under a Civil Rights Act. A Civil Rights Act. What could be fairer?
Abbie, some of the editorials today are saying, you've had it, you're through, you should give up, your time is coming fast.
Where are these better? Oh,
well, has your time come and gone?
Well, what do you mean by that? I'm too old to cut the mustard?
You ought to be looking for Carter's vicious rabbit. Well, are you?
Oh, I think I got about 25 more years in me. One of these days I'll get a trial right.
Stop the trial. The trial, don't mean this one. You probably, in your local hometown, you've got a trial or two that ought to be stopped. See?
Stop the trial means that you don't legitimize that institution. You want it stopped, and you want the people in there out. In fact, you want them out so that they can try the other fuckers that are in there, the prosecutors and the judge. And I'll tell you one thing, we ain't going to give those fuckers a fair trial.
Let's say you, Madam Poor Lady, guilty or not guilty of the alleged complaint of trespassing? Not guilty.
It's weird growing up with Hope as a companion, you know, and then the next generation or the next two, they just look at you like you're so weird. Because, see, we're trained that each generation's going to be more radical or more silly than the next. And you wake up and you say, my God, I'm sillier and radical than kids, so.
This is my son, Frederick Ted Jake Johnston Hampton. He was born December 29, 1969, about 3 weeks after Fred was killed, his father. He's a senior at Tilden High School. He does some rap, which is young people's music. And he likes to draw his into art and read, studying to be a Muslim. And this is Fred.
With our love, I'm a God from the messenger from above, messenger of good, delivered from evil.
And I guess I kind of made him my reason for wanting to live. When he was born, although in the revolutionary spirit, I thought I wanted to see his birth. There was a fear there of seeing blood. And I was very protective of him from the moment he was born. It's like his father, he has a temper, which is and a lot of mannerisms that his father had speaking. I noticed that when he was a baby, and it was really strange, kind of difficult to deal with. He reads a lot of things about his father, and occasionally he brings books home, pamphlets, and mine, have you seen this? You know, this is something about the Black Panther Party. This is something about my dad.
Stop the trial! 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 Stop the Deputy Chairman of the Illinois Black Panther Party, Brett Hampton.
All power to the people. And I just want to tell you that the chairman of the Black Panther Party is going to be ungagged, and they're going to have to take those chains off him. But they're only going to have to do that if there's enough organization and if there's enough education and if enough people know about the chairman's play. And that's our job. That's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to tell everybody in the world what's going on with Chairman Bobby. A lot of people reading the papers, every bus you get on, every building that you go into, they're talking about how cruel it is, the way they're treating Chairman Bobby Seale. And that's good, but what's not so good is that they don't understand that after Chairman Bobby Seale, it'll be me and you and everybody else. Because when they even get to the stage of fascism, they've gotten to a stage where they're going to do anything that they think is necessary to force people that don't want to dig on the shit that they're whooping on the people, they're going to force them to dig it. And they wouldn't even stage like it is now. That thousands of people will come down to the Civic Center to denounce motherfuckers like Adolf Hitler, Hoffman, and Mussolini, Attorney Mitchell, and all these other fascists that's running our society. They wouldn't be down here now. And that's what we're down here for. Because we don't think that people that founded the Black Panther Party, the Liberation Party, the Vanguard Army for the revolutionary struggle on the international level, we don't think that's a person that's a criminal. As a matter of fact, we think that when Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton got together in 1966, they got together as peacemakers, not as peace breakers. They got together to deal with the peace breakers. Peace breakers like the pigs, people that come in our community, occupy our territory like it's a foreign territory, as they do all over the world.
We're teaching people how to defend themselves and how to be armed, and there's nothing wrong with that. The only people that don't want you to have any guns are people that intend to use guns on you. We say there's something funny about the guns in our community. We don't mind there being guns in our community, but we say there's been a misdistribution of our guns. For some reason or another, they have all the guns. And we relate to Jesse James, you know, and things like that, that when Jesse James was on the street, the sheriff, he didn't think about harassing Jesse James.
All of us need to do all that we can to stop this rising tide of fascism. Because if we don't, we'll be in a situation similar to that situation that the Jewish people were in a few years ago. Now we understand very clearly that they've shown by their actions that they, the establishment, intend to play the role that Germans played. We have to show them by our actions that we do not intend to play the role that the Jews played. When they got together, Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, yes, they got together with guns, and there's nothing wrong with that, because we need some guns. Black people need some peace. White people need some peace. And we are going to have to fight. We're going to have to struggle. We're going to have to struggle relentlessly to bring about some peace, because the people that we're asking for peace, they're a bunch of megalomaniac warmongers.
He was killed so young. But he made so much of a contribution at an early age. It was an honor just to hear him speak, really.
Fred Hampton was a prince of a man. Fred Hampton was a man. Fred Hampton was a black man. Fred Hampton was a Black Panther. Fred Hampton was a bad motherfucker.
I remember someone in the room shaking Fred, saying, Chairman, wake up, pigs are vamping. And I looked up and I saw like sparks of light coming. That's what I remember seeing, sparks of light coming like across the doorway to the bedroom. The person that was in the room with us said, stop shooting, I have a pregnant woman in here. Eventually the shooting stopped and we were coming out. I was in front of the person that had came in the room to wake Fred up. And we had our hands up. And then they started shooting again. And I just knew they wanted to kill us. And one of the police grabbed me by the hair. And they opened my robe. I was 9 months pregnant. They said, what do you know? We got a broad here. And they pulled me by the hair and pushed me through the line of police and pushed me into the kitchen area. I think the shooting started back again, and I heard somebody call from the area in front of the kitchen area. He's barely alive, he'll barely make it. Shooting started again. I heard a male voice again say, he's good and dead now. In my mind, I kept reciting the 10-point program in my mind because I didn't want to focus in on what was happening. Because I just knew that they wanted to just kill us. I asked one of the police officers for a safety pin to pin my rope. It was winter time, the doors were open. And they took us out last in the snow. I just had on the house shoes, put us in a paddy wagon, and locked us up. One police station we went to, they had 2 officers. They did the good cop, bad cop routine, and trying to get information. A reporter came in and wanted an interview. And I remember telling him, you just have to explain to the people that we're living in a fascist society. He got really upset and walked away.
I killed him. I killed him. And when I say I mean all the white people in the United States killed Fred Hampton, just as we've killed every black man, because we stood by, racist all of us, and watched the society continue a slavery that was supposed to have died 100 years ago. And in general, I think we all share that basic responsibility for Fred Hampton's death, Medgar Evers' death, Martin Luther King's death, all friends of mine. In particular, he was killed by the system that is resisting every voice of dissent and every wind of change. In great particular, the state's attorney, Edward Hanrahan, killed him because he ordered the execution of a search warrant on a house which he knew contained Panthers and who he knew would shoot if their house was invaded. So he took a warrant which was signed in the early afternoon of the day before and executed it at 4:45 or so in the morning, at an hour when trouble was sure to erupt, when a warrant of that sort was attempted to be served. And what were they looking for? They had a tip there were some guns. Well, everybody knows Black Panthers have guns. There's no secret about that. So he was looking to provoke what he would like to call a shootout. The officers shot people dead in their beds and then claimed there was a shootout. Anyone looking at that house, looking at the condition of the walls and where the bullets went, can see that there was no shootout at all. What there was a shoot-in. In the intervening years, nothing has changed to alter my opinion as to the truth of those remarks I made when I was angry, when I was in Chicago with the Chicago conspiracy trial when Fred was killed on December 4th of 1969. And my anger is the same today, probably a little better contained, but the same, because I live in a city where blacks are gunned down by police officers rather relentlessly and perpetually. And unless it is understood, we're going to have a continuum of this kind of society. And the word racist is not necessarily a moral term. With some people, of course, it is. But with most people, most white people, it's not a question of morality. It's a question of what they took in with their mother's milk. It's the fact that the word nigger is not very far from their lips. It's the fact that they really probably feel inside that white people are superior to other ethnic groups. Starting with Chicago, maybe a few of the southern cases before that, but certainly starting with Chicago, it became crystallized in my mind that the system, through its legality appearance, the appearance of justice, gives an impression that people who go through it are always treated fairly, and that if they're convicted, then they should have been convicted. If they're acquitted, they should have been acquitted. And that's the terrible myth of organized society, that everything that's done through the established system is legal, and that word has a powerful psychological impact. It makes people believe that there is an order to life and an order to a system, and that a person that goes through this order and is convicted has gotten all that is due him. I suspect that better men than the world has known, and more of them, have gone to their death through a legal system than through all the illegalities in the history of man. 6 million people in Europe during the Third Reich, legal. Sacco Vanzetti, quite legal. The Haymarket defendants, legal. The hundreds of rape trials throughout the South, where black men were condemned to death, all legal. Jesus, legal. Socrates, legal. And that is the kaleidoscopic nature of what we live through here and in other places. Because all tyrants learn that it is far better to do this thing through some semblance of legality than to do it without that pretense.
The same thing, the same kangaroo court atmosphere that exists in Chicago exists here, except it's disguised more. They don't yell, they don't shout, their tones are modulated, they seem reasonable and rational, and the cases are more serious, the opposition more restrained, and yet just as vicious as it ever was. I guess the real thing is that we are a dying civilization. Insidiously, the foundations are being washed away. Unless we can regain compassion and humanity, we're doomed. And maybe good riddance.
John Sinclair, he was chairman of the White Panther Party and they on political in Ann Arbor, and he got 10 years for 2 joints of marijuana.
It'll take me a minute to do it. This is a difficult way to go about it.
That's the first point.
Well, generally the White Panther program is cultural revolution by any means necessary. We've drawn up a 10-point program. First point is full endorsement and support for the Black Panther Party's 10-point program. Point 2 is total assault on the culture by any means necessary, including rock and roll, dope, and fucking in the streets. We believe that it's time now. We believe that the general social structure of the Western world is crumbling, and that now is time to increase the assault on this culture. We believe that these things are what will help make people free, and that you won't have a free world, and you won't have a free culture until people can fuck wherever they want to and whoever they want to.
you caught us at a bad time here. We're just fixing up. Yeah, lovely painting crew here. Dina, Krishna, Celia, Penny Brown.
Hello. How are you?
We demand free exchange of all goods and all materials. And we demand the end of money. Because money, we believe that money is just a ruse. It's been set up so one group of people can control another group of people. We believe that nothing costs anything in reality, that the only two elements there are in anything that's needed in a culture are labor and materials. The materials are provided by the earth, labor is provided by people. These don't cost anything. But we believe we demand free food, free clothes, free dope, free music, free medical care, free housing, consults his notes, free transportation, free everything for everybody. There it is. There's no reason why this can't go into effect right now. The fifth point is free access to the information media and to the technology for all the people. We believe that people should be able to have control of television stations, radio stations, that we shouldn't have to put up with the crap that we get from these people now because they want to keep our vision limited, and they don't want us to see what can be done with this stuff. We believe that schools and all major buildings should be turned into crash pads and given to students. Students should be relieved from their classes. That's all students at all levels. And should be able to live in these buildings, use the gymnasiums to dance in, cover the floors with mattresses, and live in them and make some use out of them instead of wasting their time going in and getting pumped full of indoctrination material. When you see this guy, all you want to do is arrest him, you know what I mean? I mean, if somebody walked up to me today and started talking like this, I'd probably be frightened, you know? Wait, get this guy out of here. You realize when you watch something like this, what people always mean when they say, wow, you changed so much, you know? On the inside, you're still the same person, but you watch this, you can see what they're talking about anyway, you know. I think, what do you mean I changed so much? You know, I'm listening to the same records I listened to then, you know. I'm in the same place, you know. All these things are the same. Free all prisoners at once. They are our brothers. We demand an end to conscription and, in fact, an end to armies altogether. Because they are necessary. If you haven't got private property, you haven't got nothing to defend. Bob Dylan says if you ain't got nothing, you got nothing to lose. 10th point, free all the people from their leaders. Leaders suck. Because if you got leaders telling people what to do and other people that got to follow them and rules and shit like that, it isn't any good. You just have a master-slave relationship. In a free culture, the people will be able to know, they'll know what to do, they'll be educated, informed, all information will be made available to them, and everybody will know what the fuck to do. They won't have to have some creep telling them. Oh boy. What do you think about winning over the broad masses of the people and organizing a broad revolutionary movement? You know, it's... you can't do it like that. You know, I don't know how you can do it here, obviously, or I'd probably give it an attempt, but... And then, since then, mostly family life has been of paramount importance to me. Typical day, Sinclair Brown household. Never does a morning go by without fresh croissants and... Have the rolls right around, won't you, Deborah? You know what I mean?
No.
Run that by me.
I have two wonderful daughters and two wonderful stepdaughters now, and I wanted to stick around here pretty much, you know, and be available as much as possible.
We don't recognize a cultural revolution. What we see today that is being called a cultural revolution is merely a manifestation, signal to the end of this decadent society. We saw this begin with the so-called beatnik era and the free speech movement and advancing on to the present hippie movement, which is called on occasion the cultural revolution. And this is just a manifestation of the frustrations on the part of the sons and daughters of the bourgeoisie. Now, their parents had to spend all their time and energies working to try to accumulate capital to rip off a piece of the American dream. Well, their sons and daughters come along, and because their parents had engaged in this, they didn't have to spend their time at that. And they looked around to see what kind of a heritage their parents were leaving them, and they rejected that. They didn't like what they saw. Because when they look around, they do not even have any heroes they can relate to from their own heritage. See, George Washington, all those cats, they're out the window, you see, and they start tripping out into other ethnic groups' cultures, like the Indian culture, you know, Hinduism, astrology, all of that, you know, going around even dressing like Indians, etc. Their heroes, their posters they have on their wall are primarily of third world revolutionaries, Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, Huey P. Newton, Mao Zedong, Ho Chi Minh, you see. See, in order to have a true cultural revolution, we first must have a true revolution. And the definition for revolution is a complete and radical change, the overthrow of one system and being replaced by another, only after we deal with the economic base, which would be to smash and destroy this capitalist society, because we start talking about a true cultural revolution. People who would like to give other meanings or talk about other types of revolutions, these are the same people that try to propagate the madness that there's no difference between Rockefeller and me. You see, and that's a motherfucking lie, because he's got all the money.
I left the States in 1970, in May. I worked until the inevitable repression struck against me. Fortunately for me, I got a little 2 weeks warning, so that gave me a chance to get my shit together and managed to escape before they were able to capture me, you see. There was a case in Baltimore of a conspiracy to assassinate a police informer, and I was at the head of the list. My situation with the United States, it more or less could be considered, it was at a state of war, you see. So when I left, you see. And that posed me aucun problem psychologique, moral quelconque. Ma vie appartenue my life belonged to the struggle, you see. I didn't exist for me, you know. Of course, I had my own personal thoughts and whatnot, but I was a disciplined soldier, you see, so I put all my personal desires aside. I didn't exist for myself. So I continued the loot, I continued the struggle by leaving, because I went to Algiers and joined with Eldridge Cleaver, Sekou Odinga, and Larry Mack. We organized the international section of the Black Panther Party in Algiers. Our dream, I think of most of us at one time or another, was for a revolution in the society to correct the ills and provide everybody with a good life. We didn't condemn our brothers and sisters that wanted to have a Cadillac, because the technology and the resources available was such that if everybody wanted to have a Cadillac, everybody could have one. I have a personal project going on, Annex, which is studying resistance to the French slave state from the 17th to the 19th century. If I ever have the luxury of having the time in the future, maybe I'll try to make a synthèse, but that's a long ways off. That's something I'll be doing the rest of my life.
Oui, mais pas tout à fait sur ton sujet.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Ça, c'est sur la guerre d'Amérique. Mais c'est les États-Unis, mais c'est pas ton sujet, c'est la guerre d'indépendance. Bien qu'on parle un petit peu de la Martinique. Là, je suis sur la page Barbade, Martinique. Mais bon,
Il y a quelque chose d'intéressant là. Est-ce qu'elle parle de les troupes noires de Saint-Domingue qui étaient organisées, qui est venu faire bataille sur le côté des indépendantistes?
Je pense, je n'ai pas regardé encore, parce qu'il faut regarder tout le livre.
My own personal desire is really more or less a regret, is not having the intellectual capability to think of something that I personally could do that would be effective in raising the standard of living, survival of people all over the planet Earth. And my desire, constant, is to come up with an idea, something to do, you know. And I've run across other people that seem to be in those kind of situations, but up until now, no one seems to have come up with an idea of anything concrete that we could do that would really be effective in bringing that about, you see. So I just could not live in a country like the United States and just not do anything. I wouldn't want to live as a fugitive, because any work would have to be done on an open or legal basis. You know, the conditions don't exist in the United States for a completely clandestine struggle. So I could not just live there. So I've never had any problems about longing, regretting to not be able to go back or be home. So I'm satisfied here. I'm anonymous. I can go around and do anything I want as long as I don't break the law. Nobody cares, and that suits me fine, you see. Because I don't want to attract any attention, you see. I don't want any attention.
The conflict now is not between left and right, or the rich and the poor, or even the blacks and the whites. It's the conflict between the uptight and the turned on.
Oh, you're a good boy, yes. Now, show Mike and Mark. Ready? Go. There. That's Cary Grant's house right there, or was Cary Grant's house. It was kind of nice. I've known Cary for 30 years, and we ended up in the same valley, looking south, same way. Goodbye. 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 Yeah, goodbye. Goodbye.
The conflict now is not between left and right, or the rich and the poor, or even the blacks and the whites. It's the conflict between the uptight and the turned on.
I can use my mind to move my thoughts around just the way in a crowded room you could move from one person to another, producing different interpersonal signals. And this goes on for, there are over 3,000 of these little micro events. See that? Now, that was a big thought jump, because I went from being very easygoing or lazy over to gloomy. This is called Mind Mirror, and it's one of a new genre of software programs that allow you to take your thoughts, digitize them, put them on screens, move them around, change your thoughts, communicate your thoughts clearly to other people. And the aim of this is to give you the user, the person, the individual, the power to change what's on the screen. Because in the 20th century, if you can't change what's on the screen, if you can't orchestrate and direct and move these electrons around, your mind and your life is being controlled by the people who do control the screen. That's ABC, KGB, NBC, CIA. The military and the police love to have an incident, because then they double their forces and double their appropriations and call out the National Guard. They love that. The military and the police, unfortunately, have been given all these war toys, the helicopters and the gas bombs and the shotguns, and we know that if you give these men the war toys, they just got to use them. So we're going to unleash the power of flowers. And I can say more forcibly and with an equal amount of satirical humor that the problem that is sinking America and driving America down to the position of being a second-class power is this appalling militarism on the part of the Cold War warriors who won that great victory back in the 40s, who for the last 40 years have been looking for some chance to regain and re-experience their great triumph. So that nothing's going to happen in America until we overthrow, totally overthrow, humiliate, laugh at the World War II leadership. If you look around the world today, the successful, prosperous, and peaceful countries are the ones that have discredited their World War II leadership, thrown out the establishment that led them into that kind of war. The Axis countries, ironically enough, Germany, Japan, Italy, and the neutral countries like Switzerland are prospering and running the world today, and America, Russia, and England, the so-called victors of that war, are the ones that are sinking into depression, debt, and general lack of productivity. The lesson is so clear. Nothing's going to happen until we throw out the tired Cold War leadership. Now, fortunately, just in the nick of time, the baby boom generation, the generation that I was hanging around with in the 60s, is going to come into power in the next 10 years. And the first thing they'll do is shake up and renovate the military establishment and put in generals and admirals and military leaders who share the 60s sensibility of a peaceful, harmonious, intelligent, cooperative, productive, enjoyable, consumer-rich society. So I'm rather proud, looking back then, at how prophetic my words were. It's sure taken a hell of a long time, though, to get rid of those police and military with their toys, but the time has come now to do it, I hope. I'm not wise, I'm a quick learner. It's much better in the information age to be a fast take, to be a quick copy, to be a quick learner, than to be a heavy-duty, wise person with your tomes of knowledge and your PhD. Anyway, that's just my opinion. The conflict now is not between left and right, or the rich and the poor, or even the blacks and the whites. It's the conflict between the uptight and the turned on. I suppose that's no more offensive than any other generalization or polarity of the time. It was a period of windbag gaseousness, and we looked all right. And we kept a certain sense of humor.
I don't think they've yet been hit by the ecological catastrophe that they have caused, the establishment that is. Because the whole point is that karma, the old Indian word, meaning like cause and effect. You know, if you eat meat, you turn into a meat-eating a piece of meat. Karma, cause and effect, is the same thing as ecology, in the sense that ecology is the interrelation of cause and effect of who eats what and what does what to who in the environment, so that the pollution of the environment that we're beginning to notice now is the same thing as the pollution of our own moral consciousness, or the pollution of our own human feelings and emotions, the pollution of our own sensitivity, or the pollution of our own consciousness itself. And that both consuming and shitting up the environment, all put together making a kind of matter habit. In other words, America's shooting a lot of gasoline, a lot of electricity, a lot of plastic into its bloodstream, and dependent for the maintenance of the large cities, and the courts of justice, and the police, and television, and even the radical movement, dependent on shooting up all that matter. Like matter junkies, it puts the United States in a very weird karmic position, or a very weird ecological position, that in order to maintain the present standard of living and maintain the American way, we're literally going to destroy the planet, which will destroy the American way anyway. Apologize for being mistaken in those days, that I had the wrong mantra all along. My guru, Chogyam Trungpa, a Tibetan Lama, had suggested I try a different one, more American, the same one you hear on July 4th when the fireworks go up in the air, which is ah, which is appreciation of the spaciousness around us. Chanting Om so aggressively didn't intrigue people to enter that space, but probably just simply mystified them. I didn't know enough then to send out a calmer vibe, and a more thoughtful vibe, and a more sensitive vibe. I wish I'd been more sensitive then. And I wish I'd been a little kinder to myself, actually. Less outraged with myself. Less guilty. Carrying less white guilt, as everybody did. And I wish I had trusted my instincts more freely as I do now, which were instincts of generosity rather than paranoia.
My brother has armed himself in steel to avenge the wrongs thy children feel. But vain the sword and vain the bow, they never can work war's overthrow. The hermit's prayer and the widow's tear alone can free the world from fear. For a tear is an intellectual thing, and the sigh is the sword of an angel king, and the bitter groan of the martyr's woe is an arrow from the Almighty's bow. The hand of vengeance found the bed to which the purple tyrant fled. The iron hand crushed the tyrant's head and became a tyrant in his stead.
You got to suffer
everything changes. You got no soul. You got no soul. I had tea every morning almost a decade looking out of my kitchen window before I realized it was my worldview, August 18th, 1984. Harry Smith, archivist, anthropologist, filmmaker, and hermetic alchemist. His last week at Breslin Hotel, Manhattan, January 12th, 1985, transforming milk into milk. William Burroughs, the Sphinx himself, at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, the Egyptian collection. I saw Bill as a Sphinx, in a sense, you know, sort of a great mind, but mysterious intelligence. So when we went to the museum, I pulled out my Kodak retina and snapped him standing by the stone face. Jack Kerouac, 1953, on the fire escape of my apartment with a brakeman's rule book in his pocket, smoking a cigarette, with the clotheslines behind him. 1964, handsome Neil with a good physique and Timothy Leary laughing in the very psychedelic bus that Ken Kesey drove with Cassidy as driver across the United States. And they arrived in New York, met Kerouac, and then I got on the bus and we went up to Millbrook. And so this is the meeting between Neil Cassidy and Timothy Leary at Millbrook in Ken Kesey's psychedelic bus. So my interest actually is in sacred moments of character. And since the people I hang around with have some awareness of the possibility of a sacramental society, though these may not be the supreme exemplars of such, they certainly are people who had some spirit that helped change the United States and widen the consciousness of the country and waken up generations around the world. So that's a revolution. Some sense of openness, some sense of camaraderie and adhesiveness, as Walt Whitman said. On the other hand, there might be the skeptic, Burroughs. Skeptical of all that adhesiveness. He's not quite sure in 1961.
Think what you think what you think. Touch whom you touch whom you touch. Let go, let it go. Slow, boom, boom. Earth, heaven, and hell. Earth, heaven, and hell. Die when you die. Die when you die. Die when you die. Die when you die. Lie down, you lie down. Lie down, you lie down. And you die when you die.
Despite all my dire forebodings about the future of this country, I feel that I, on the personal level, have had a good and fruitful life. I've done what I wanted to do. I've gotten as much independence as you can get in this world. I feel that I've lived the way I wanted to live. How it ends up, I don't know, but I'm so far along the road now that maybe the short journey left becomes inconsequential in that respect. I've done over 40 years of lawyering in many parts of the world, in almost every state in the Union. And I've had these marvelous people like Martin King, Malcolm X, Adam Clayton Powell, the Freedom Riders, the inmates of Attica, the Catholic anti-war activists, the Black Panthers, and so many others, that it's just a fruitful thing for me. It's made me feel important. It's made me feel significant. Whether I am or I'm not becomes inconsequential now. And I think that I don't think I would change it if I had the power to do so. If some miracle worker came along and said, Bill, go back now. You're 21. Now start all over again. I would probably walk the same road that I've walked now. And I was damn lucky to be able to walk it.
half-life of any scientific fact these days is, what, 3 or 4 years. The half-life of any new theory is 4 or 5 years. Books are out of date by the time they're printed. It's, so you have to change. I've changed my, the way I talk. I've changed the style of life. I've changed the technologies I use to think and communicate.
Instead of necessarily being dependent on humans who are in scarce supply.
George Leonard. You know who George Leonard is? No. The old, like a New Age person sort. Wrote an article in Harper's about education in the future, which is absolutely cyber super.
You've heard of Ted's ideas on that? I guess he's talked to Ted Nelson.
Oh, Ted Nelson.
His ideas about that?
We've got to put Ted in a lot more.
Yeah. Oh, I have the section on hypertext towards the end of the cyber quantum technology chapter.
Yeah. What hasn't changed, and of course I've learned, as we've all learned in the last 20, 30 years, I'm shrewder, I'm more of a veteran, I'm tougher. All this is on the change side. What has not changed is my basic motto, which is TFYQA, think for yourself, question authority. What has not changed is my commitment and my passion for evolution and for change. I believe that there are certain human beings that are wired, probably by DNA, to be change agents, to enjoy change. In quiet times, people like me are considered eccentrics or village idiots or just out of touch because we're looking for change. But in a time like now, the last 15, 20, 30 years, this is the perfect environment, habitat for change agents, because every time you look up, things are moving and new responses are demanded and new stages are unfolding. So what has not changed is my passion and enthusiasm for change.
In a way, if you take the speeches of the 60s, it all came true. You know, we said the government was going to fall. Well, the Richard Nixon government in 1974 fell. You know, there wasn't a revolution. The 16-year-olds didn't overwhelm the White House and turn it into a hippie commune. But what happened was we reawoke the sleeping conscience of America. The United States voluntarily removed its military power from Vietnam and threw Nixon out of the White House. All of a sudden, it became very difficult to say who the enemy was anymore. Who's the enemy?
And America knows that we've rejected everything it stands for, that we've rejected its goals, and that we don't want a home in the suburbs. We fuck the suburbs. We came from the suburbs. We want to burn the suburbs down.
In a way, I believe the opposite now. It's a fantastic opportunity to grow up in America, because this is a country that does allow you to dream, you know, in a way because of the 60s.
We're not interested in working for money. We're not interested in working for diplomas. What the fuck is a diploma? Anybody here? Why is anybody in the school? You want a diploma? The Yippies print free diplomas. At the end of this, if you're in school to get a diploma, just see me afterward. I'll get you a free diploma signed by anybody you want it signed by. Getting a diploma just admits that you're able to be bored. Because we accuse America of boredom. That's a crime.
Because there's no payoff. There are no heroes anymore. You know, now we were rebelling against a society that had the wrong heroes and had the wrong role models and was very restrictive and punishing. Okay, so we won. So now you can do anything. I think the best part of my life right now is I'm happily married and have been so for 10 years. And never thought in the 60s, you know, when relationships were always politically tested, that I would just have such a natural, loving, I think, equal relationship. And I'm just very excited about becoming a father.
Welcome to Point Pleasant, Pennsylvania, the scene of the battle to save the Delaware River. The group that's spearheading the fight sent a delegation to New York to find me, to see if I would come and help out. This happens to me about 4 times a week. the calls or letters or delegations that want me to come and help, and I said I'd come and have a look. When I met their whole group, I saw that they had Democrats, Republicans, left-wing, right-wing, liberals, conservatives, old people, young people, married people. They had a microcosm of the whole community of Bucks County. There were strong, deep feelings about the pumping project. And so, therefore, there was something to work with when I came as a $1-a-year hired gun. PICO believes it has the right to devour Bucks County and overrule the regulatory power of the state. Such a situation has grave implications for our entire country. So it's a question of, like it was in Northampton, it's the same, like all the battles I'm fighting. It's exactly like who's operating outside the democratic process, who's operating outside the Constitution as it's defined, who's using arbitrary will and force. Is it the people, or is it small groups of very rich, entrenched forces? Well, of course, that's a rhetorical question. Something Mark Twain said about rights. If you don't use the rights, then the rights aren't even there. You have to do democracy. What the hell? That's all you can ask people to do is put up a good fight. I know I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing all I can, that's all. I'm doing all I can. That's gonna be a bitch if I lose.